Remember that moment when you were watching a so-called kids show and thought, am I old enough for this? Welcome back to Echoes of Yesterday, where we explore the stories and shows that shaped our childhood and sometimes gave us nightmares. Today, we're looking at 5 90s cartoons that occasionally dipped into territory so dark you'd be forgiven for thinking they were for adults. Buckle up, it's about to get slightly creepy. No list of dark kids' cartoons is complete without Courage the Cowardly Dog. Airing on Cartoon Network starting in 1999, this show followed a timid pink dog living with an elderly couple in the middle of nowhere, and nowhere was literally where all sorts of supernatural, paranormal, and sometimes downright horrifying creatures showed up. From that infamous "you're not perfect" nightmare fuel to demonic cats and zombies, Courage gave us more jump scares than most horror flicks aimed at adults. Did it teach us about bravery in the face of the unknown? Absolutely. But it also left us sleeping with the lights on, hoping a giant evil eggplant wouldn't come knocking on our door. But Courage wasn't alone in bringing terror to the 90s TV screen. Next up is an entire clan of nighttime protectors. Next is Gargoyles, a 1994 Disney series that pushed the boundaries of kid-friendly. By day, these stone guardians perched high above a modern city. By night, they awoke as literal gargoyles, battling criminals, ancient sorcerers, and even themes like vengeance and betrayal. The show featured complex story arcs, Shakespearean references, and a dark, moody tone that felt more like Batman than a typical Disney cartoon. Some episodes dealt with seriously heavy material: gun violence, moral ambiguity, and loyalty struggles. For a Disney afternoon staple, Gargoyles was epic, but at times it felt like it snuck onto the wrong channel, one intended for an older audience. And speaking of shadows and dark storylines, it's time to talk about the Dark Knight himself. When we think of 90s cartoons that went beyond the kiddie zone, Batman, the animated series, often tops the list. Debuting in 1992, it featured noir-style visuals, gothic architecture, and storylines that tackled serious issues like mental health, moral dilemmas, and personal tragedy. Villains like Two-Face and Mr. Freeze weren't just bad guys, they were tragic figures driven by loss and obsession. Not to mention, the art style was decidedly shadowy, giving many scenes an eerie vibe, especially for a weekday afternoon cartoon slot. While it's lauded for its brilliance today, some parents back in the 90s weren't prepared for how serious and dark this Batman show could get. Now, onto a show that had kids laughing 1 second and cringing the next. Wondering, how is this allowed on Nickelodeon? Ren and Stimpy, first airing in 1991 on Nickelodeon. This bizarre duo, a psychotic chihuahua and a dim-witted cat, took slapstick humor to extremes. While it wasn't always dark in the supernatural sense, its episodes often contained gross-out gags, nightmarish close-up visuals, and deeply unsettling moments that made parents squirm. It was a boundary pusher, challenging what could be shown in a children's cartoon. Think of those hyper-detailed, almost grotesque zoom-ins of characters. Sometimes it was hilarious, other times it was downright disturbing. It's no wonder the show faced its share of controversy and was later moved to time slots aimed at older audiences. If you grew up on Ren and Stimpy, there's a good chance you have a strong stomach for weirdness. But if surreal, strange humor wasn't enough, our final entry went full-on creepy invasion mode. Invader Zim technically premiered in 2001, but it still rides the coattails of 90s weirdness. Created by Jonan Vasquez, known for dark, edgy comics, Invader Zim centered on an alien's attempt to conquer Earth while posing poorly as a human child. The show was infamous for its twisted humor, body horror references, and a general tone of doom and gloom. Zim's obsession with extracting organs, or Dib's encounters with cosmic terrors, gave fans that bizarre blend of comedy and uncomfortable horror. Nickelodeon eventually cancelled it, possibly for being too weird or too dark for their target crowd. Over time, it became a cult classic, proving that kids can handle a little existential dread, apparently. And there you have it. 5 90 cartoons that weren't afraid to get a little grim, spooky, or just plain bizarre. From Courage scaring us out of our seats to Invader Zim's twisted alien antics, these shows prove that kid-friendly can still have a bite. Which one freaked you out the most? Did we miss any other cartoon that gave you nightmares? Let us know in the comments. And if you're hungry for more nostalgia trips, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss our next dive into the weird and wonderful world of childhood memories.